Looks like it.
Just waiting for Carolyn.
I think it's time.
Just waiting for Carolyn.
Oh,
She's
yes.
not back yet.
Oh, good. It's breathing out of that. There's a ledge right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I'm scooting over to you. Don't think I'm getting friendly here. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, just us here. You got the best seat in the house. That's where I sat before. Yeah.
where's Carolyn?
Well, she said Rob to give me a packet because I couldn't
Oh.
do everything my own.
That's right.
So I took that responsibility.
Should I start without her?
That didn't bother me.
First time Jim's early and he's still some things out.
Yeah, we should start this underway, I think.
Sure.
We don't even have Carrie over there, do we?
They don't need people
Oh,
over
there
there
she
that
is.
knows what to do.
We can get started.
Fire it.
Fire away.
Carrie, is the live on?
Yep.
It is.
Okay. Can we get started without Carolyn?
Oh, we can.
Okay.
Here she is. Just
She's coming.
Oh, they have. So Carolyn's in. Okay,
She's here.
perfect.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Okay, well, I guess we start now. Thanks a lot. I'm sorry about that.
All right, you ready? Call to order City of Coos Bay Planning Commission meeting for October 12th, 2021. Can I get an attendance roll call?
Commissioner Terry,
Here.
Commissioner Bird,
Here.
Commissioner Aguirre,
Here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Stevens,
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Perfect. Before we start our public hearing, we have some minutes to adopt. Can we get a separate motion for each minutes? Anybody?
I move we approve the minutes as written.
Got to do them separate.
We do?
August 10th.
August 10th.
August 10th, meeting for August 10th.
I can't remember that far back.
It's on your agenda. Can I get a second for August 10th?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Terry,
Pardon?
It's hard to hear.
Yes.
Commissioner Bird,
Yes.
Chairman Aguirre.
For August 10th, I abstain. I was not here.
Commissioner Davis,
Here. Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Hi.
Commissioner Miller.
I abstain, I was not here.
All right,
Pretty
can we
sure
get a
it
second one for the September 14th
I
meeting
move
minutes?
that we approve the minutes for September 14th as written.
I will second that motion.
Perfect.
Can you please state who did the second motion?
Miller.
Miller.
Commissioner Miller.
Commissioner Terry,
Aye.
Commissioner Bird,
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Perfect. So we have one item on our agenda today to review and accept public comment on possible additions to the Coos Bay Municipal Code, Section 17.370, to create regulations for vacation rentals. Just a reminder that the Planning Commission is not authorized to make amendments to add to the code, but we're empowered to review and provide recommendation to council. At tonight's public hearing, in order, we will hear a staff report, and then we'll hold public hearings so people can make comment. At the end of the last public statement, we will have time to ask questions. An 8:30 adjournment is our goal. And can we have the staff report? Oh, actually, we have to ask conflict of interest and ex parte contact. And I believe they want to do a roll call for each commissioner on that.
Commissioner Terry?
None for me other than in a professional capacity.
Commissioner Byrd?
None.
Chairman Gary?
None.
Commissioner Davis?
None.
Commissioner Stevens?
None.
Commissioner Miller?
None.
Okay, looks like it's time for a staff report.
Thank you, commissioners. I just want to share with the audience that we've got there's a lot of folks that want to speak, so we've got a timer here for a 3-minute limit. If you go slightly over, it's okay, but we want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak. And if you haven't signed in, just so we have an idea of all the people that are here, it'd be a good idea to do that or drop off a slip over to Carrie. I think with that, I will get started. Carrie, could you, great, pull that up. We're here tonight at the behest of the City Council. They've requested that the Commission provide some feedback on some draft regulations that the Planning Commission had looked at and reviewed back in 2019. But they would like to have the community have an opportunity to talk about that draft and any other comments that they may have about vacation rentals. Sure. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. Just to lay a little bit of groundwork, the definition in our development code of vacation rentals is a residential structure being rented for compensation for less than 30 days without concurrent occupation by the owner-operator. There is another definition of something called a homestay that is similar to this, where the homeowner is in the home and utilizes the home as a type of vacation rental, but they're in the home. The information that the Commission looked at a while back did not really address homestays, although I noticed a lot of the letter writers did talk about that, and that it's a little different, but in Coos Bay, we've looked at that the same way in the past. The pages of the supplemental report that were on the city's website, if you guys had a chance to look at it, indicate the regulations that the Planning Commission looked at a couple years back, and they're on page 7 and 8 of that report. So if you'd like to get the link to that after we're done, I'd be happy to give it to you. The council has put a vacation rental moratorium on residential zones in the city at this time until there's been discussion on how they want to move forward. So that's pretty much a good reason for us to all talk tonight. I do want to state for the record that the packet that was on the city website had many, many letters. Thank you all who sent letters. It's great to get that public participation. But since the day the packet went out, which was a week ahead of today, we had more letters, and I want to state the names of the writers just to make sure that it's in the record that they did submit letters. And that was Carl Hingley, Julie Stevens, Emily Gardner, Maria Gonzalez Santos, Crystal Soji, and Peggy Whitty Richter. If you're here and you submitted a letter and I didn't state your name, please just raise your hand or let one of you. I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. Well, no, you don't have to, but if you'd like to say that you submitted a letter and it wasn't online and I didn't read your name, you certainly can. I want to make sure, if you had something to say, it's in the record. So,
Carolyn?
We submitted a letter, we resubmitted it, somehow I got lost. We submitted it on September 23rd, it was not in the packet.
okay,
We resubmitted it.
okay. Maybe I can connect with you afterwards, and at the next meeting, we can, I'll announce it then, that it was in the record, September 20th.
So, Carolyn?
Yes, sir.
Just to be clear, so this is not the same as a B and B, correct? Because you said if the person's not residing in the home at the time of the leasehold,
Right, it's the definition we're talking about is a vacation rental. An Airbnb can be very much like a homestay, but we're not talking about Airbnb.
so that's not on the table. So if it's an Airbnb or a homestay, it isn't something we're talking about tonight,
No,
okay?
no. We're talking about the definitions that I just mentioned, yeah. But that doesn't preclude folks from bringing it up as an alternative to this, so please don't feel constrained that you can't talk about it. Next slide, please. You might have noticed, if you were able to look online at the staff report, that we identified a map where we know of vacation rentals that have legally gone through the process. That has included a land use permit, they have a business license, they've signed up to pay their bed taxes, and they've been moving along fairly swiftly and smoothly. However, we recognize that there are a lot of vacation rentals in the city that are not authorized and that have been operating. And I don't have a map of those. There's many resources that can be explored to try to track that down. But at this point, we just want to talk about the regulations. That's the purpose of the meeting. Next slide, please. The current vacation rental application process prior to the moratorium for the authorized vacation rentals that I just spoke about. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
I just noticed something on your graphic, I'll address it later.
Oh, okay, thank you. And that process includes a $350 application fee for a land use application that describes a vacation rental, notification to property owners within 150 feet from the site, 20 days before the city would make a decision on the application, and then after a decision would be made, for 7 days, the same property owners would be notified that a decision had been made, and then there would be a 15-day period where that decision could be appealed. Alternatively, that administrative process that we go through, the director, Mr. Jim Hosley over there, he has the authority to bump something up to the Planning Commission if he thinks that it's suitable. Next slide, please. I noted earlier where you could find the drafted city standards that were proposed by the commission a while back. But what's been happening in the meantime is that the vacation rentals that have been authorized have been subject to requirements of Title VIII, our Health and Safety Code, for things like unlawful waste disposal, littering, vehicles. They have to comply with all our public peace requirements. You can't discharge weapons, public decency, public maintaining the peace. You have to keep the noise down. Can't shoot off fireworks. All those things are covered in the city's codes for everyone here, not just vacation rentals. They're also subject to requirements of Title 15, which covers buildings and construction. It entails an inspection and to make sure you're not asking people to stay in an unsafe place. And then, of course, there's the business license registration, and I think I forgot to include it, but there's the bed tax requirement as well. The other piece that's good to know is that a permit for this kind of use can be revoked with a 60-day notification if there's violations of the permit. Next slide, please. In the past years, we have not really had a lot of issues with vacation rentals as far as complaints. There was an application in the spring of this year on Prefontaine where folks received the notification and they promptly responded, and the system worked. They were notified, and the applicant was provided with the comments and was advised that the application was going to be sent on to the Planning Commission, and at that point they withdrew the application. So it's kind of a good example of how that system works. Regarding the operating vacation rentals, I've spent some time with the police chief, and I'm quoting him here. This was back in July. He said, "We have not had any notable calls or concerns specifically about vacation rentals in this city. We do at times receive calls regarding noise complaints or maybe some parking issue. However, for me to be able to say that those are specifically related to vacation rentals, I would not be able to." Our code enforcement officer, I checked back with her a couple of times in the spring and then this summer, and she had not received complaints about vacation rentals. In a review of the complaints that we've gotten through the planning department, which is one of many departments here at the city, there was a complaint received in 2020 with a concern that the folks operating had not gone through the right process. Next slide, please. When the council enacted the moratorium, they asked the staff to go over some regulations of other cities, which we did. In the staff report that was online, we went through a number of cities on pages 4 to 6 of the supplemental report. We looked at comparisons and differences and similarities between other cities in Coos Bay. These included Warrenton, which is just south of Astoria, and Bandon, which is a fairly high-traffic tourist area. Others that we took a look at after the staff report went out were North Bend and Coos County. North Bend has a cap on the number of vacation rentals that they allow in their city at 64, and they allow them in both residential and commercial areas. Those are administratively approved, and they have similar inspections as the city of Coos Bay does and other cities for life safety requirements. Folks have to sign up to pay for a business license, and they have to pay transient occupancy tax. Coos County does it a little differently. They use Coos Health and Wellness for their inspection review. They have to find that there's compatibility with the surrounding area. I couldn't find anything specific as to what that meant, but it was in their code. They have to show compliance with the parking requirements, and then they have to record a deed restriction with the county clerk that the vacation rental is what's called an accessory use. In other words, it's not the primary use of the site. So it sounded a little like a homestay, but it wasn't very clear. County regulations typically are somewhat different than how cities operate. But I think they've got the concept down that they are allowing them under these circumstances. Common to all of these cities that we looked at, North Bend, Warrenton, the draft that we had put together for Coos Bay, Bandon, was that there were noticing requirements for the neighborhoods, there were contact requirements, there were occupant limitations, there were location limitations on where on the property or how far away from other properties vacation rentals could be, and of course parking requirements. So to conclude, we're recommending that the Planning Commission provide all of you with an opportunity to speak this evening, and then continue this public hearing to Monday, October 25th as a special meeting at 6 o'clock. And there's a motion up there that I think the commissioners can frame if they want to use this when all the speakers are done. So, Chair, that concludes my report at this time. I'm available for questions if you have any.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions? We're ready for our public hearing portion.
Actually, I do have a question.
Sure.
The complaints or concerns that we have received, have they been clearly identified as being related to one of these places that people that have gone through this incredibly difficult process, it seems like, to get one of these things and have it be official? Were these identified as being officially vacation rentals, or were they just places where people were renting their house out?
Well, for applications themselves, when
Well,
somebody has made an application,
No, I'm saying,
the ones that are
noise complaint?
existing,
if we have an existing complaint, is that complaint specifically related to one of these places where the people have paid the fees, paid the fines, paid the, have been checked out, gone through all this?
Good question.
And identified as vacation rental? Are they clear, are they specifically related to that, or are they just a random case of somebody renting out their house?
we had, our police chief shared that he could not specify that any complaints he's received about noise or disturbances were vacation rental related.
Or
He could not, he couldn't differentiate that. He said that they at times received calls about noise or parking, but for me to be able to say that they're specifically related to vacation rentals, I would not be able to. So I don't think he very clearly qualified his
I
response.
guess the reason I'm asking this is because, it seems like if you had complaints about 101 First Avenue and the people went there and they thought, yes, this has been identified as a legal vacation rental and we're having problems there, but that doesn't seem to be what I'm hearing.
Not that we've been able to identify. We did, the one complaint that we did receive in 2020 was from someone saying, hey, I think they're renting a vacation rental here, and if they are, they should really go through the process.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, I have a question.
Sure.
On the type 2 land use permit, when it says there's the notice that goes out and then there's a decision and then a chance to appeal,
Yes.
can you please elaborate on the appeal process? I mean, what does it take to appeal that decision?
There is a form that you fill out and a fee, and you pay that, and then you can file an appeal. An appeal of an administrative decision
Right.
would be to move it on up to the Planning Commission. An appeal of the Planning Commission's decision can be moved on up to the City Council.
Right, okay, and so any of the property owners within X amount of feet from the proposed vacation rental would have the opportunity to appeal it up to this commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Or alternatively, the director, if he receives many concerns and complaints, like, "Hey, we think this is a bad idea," he has the authority to bump it to you as well, in which case that's a decision on his part. And that was the example I gave you on Prefontaine.
Sure, sure. And would we have the ability to at least to make the recommendation that the owners within a larger diameter, or larger area are notified?
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Right?
Oh, I have a question. I'm kind of full of questions for wanting to get through this. Do we have a list now, a specific list of those addresses that are legal vacation rentals in Coos Bay?
Yes. It's on page 1 of the supplemental report. There's,
Perhaps if I'd read that carefully, I'd have found it. But
yes,
anyway, okay.
we have that list.
So in other words, we can identify a specific testimony of a complaint to that particular address.
If there's a complaint, well, I mean, we'll respond to any complaint.
Yeah, no, but
And if the individual has a vacation rental permit and they have violated the permit and there's complaints, they're subject to having their permit revoked.
okay.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do is differentiate between somebody who isn't following the rules, who's just renting their house out and having problems, and then those problems causing the neighbors difficulty, and those who are going through the hoops and perhaps aren't having problems. That's what I'm trying to determine.
I understand.
Is there any, does anyone check like Airbnb or VRBO.com and against the city's list of approved vacation rental houses and what's actually being marketed out there?
We are working on that. There are services that offer, that opportunity. We are very lean and mean, lean, I won't say mean, we're lean staff. And I think that if, there were more staff and that we had a council direction to do that, we would. In the meantime, though, there's a recognition that that is an issue, that if there are vacation rentals out there that are unpermitted, whether there's complaints or not, that's potential revenue that is slipping away. But again, those are some policy decisions that have to be made, and this is one piece of it, to look at those potential regulations.
Okay. Are we ready to hear some public comment?
Just one more question.
Oh,
On the draft regulations previously proposed by, or recommended by this commission, where it says location limit, vacation rental cannot be closer than 300 feet from an existing vacation rental. So that means like a duplex couldn't have vacation rentals in it, or?
That's a good question. That's something you'll have to talk about if you revisit these regulations.
Okay, thank you.
all set? All right, let's hear some public comment. When you go up to the podium, state your name. If you can, leave your mask on too. That would be great. And your address. Carrie, are you calling people up or? Oh, at my discretion. We can just have volunteers go up one by one.
I just have a general question.
Sure.
So this.
Ma'am, can you come to the podium and give us your name?
I just have a quick question in general, and then I'll speak about it later. Is this possible change in regulations, is it simply for within the city limits, or is it also going to be affecting the vacation rentals in the county?
Just the city.
Just the city?
Correct.
Not the ones that are in the county, or licensed through the county?
Nope, we were just asking to see what the county in North Bend and Bandon, what they were doing for reference.
Yeah.
I just, that was all.
Yeah, no worries. Go ahead. Perfect, thank you. Did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Can I move this down?
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Molly Ford. My address is 62560 Crown Point Road, Coos Bay, Oregon. So I live out by Charleston. I don't live in the city. However, my husband and I owned two houses that are long-term rentals in Coos Bay, and we also own the Ford Building, a commercial building in Coos Bay that houses Seven Devils Brewing. I'm here to speak in support of vacation rentals. My sister, Peggy Woody Richter, wrote a letter. She and her husband bought a house this summer with plans for in the future to possibly retire in Coos Bay. My sister grew up here as I did. They bought an older house and they've done a lot of renovations on it, and they have more in the works. So they haven't applied for a permit yet because they're renovating this older house. It's in walking distance. It's up above the World Building. So walking distance to downtown with a little view of the bay. When I read the last report in the World about the moratorium, I saw a comment that was made that vacation rentals have no value to the local community, and I want to dispute that. My sister and her husband have hired a local gardener to keep up the yard and the landscaping. They've had their wood floors redone by Charlie's Carpentry, a local business. They have bought new appliances at Bay Appliance. They have bought paint and other stuff at hardware stores to do repairs on the inside. They have plans to put on a new roof. They have plans to paint the house. All of this, they're going to hire local people. They are coming down here regularly to do a lot of some work themselves. And when they are here, they eat at local restaurants. They've bought artwork downtown to put up in the home. and furniture. They've just spent thousands of dollars locally, and the people who will come and stay there will spend lots of money locally. And I'm a person who likes to stay in vacation rentals, because when I go on vacation, I go with my family. I take my grandkids, or I go on a sister's retreat, and we all want to be together. We want to sit around and have breakfast and talk for an hour in our pajamas. That's not something we're going to do at a hotel. So if I was coming to vacation on the Southern Oregon coast, I would look at Coos Bay and I would look for a home that had something unique, like walkability to downtown or a view of the bay. And if I couldn't find a house that was available, or a house that could house all the people that we want to come together, I wouldn't just stay in a hotel. I would skip Coos Bay. I would go to Bandon. I would go to Newport. I would stay somewhere else on the Oregon coast. So if we limit our vacation rentals too much, so that people like me who like to vacation that way, that's part of the experience where you stay, we're going to lose out on those dollars. And I think the only other thing I want to add is that if you're going to, when you have a fee for a person who is not applying correctly, they didn't do their paperwork, they didn't get a permit, and that fine is lower than what the application fee is, which I think is the case here, then people are not going to go through the proper channels and register their homes. So that's something you'll also need to look at. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay,
Do we need to limit their time?
she's got a timer.
Did she?
Can you put your mask on, sir?
I don't know.
Oh, you have
Can
it.
you-
I'm
can
sorry.
you hear me?
I didn't see it.
Yeah? Good.
Yes.
Okay, so to address your concerns, first of all, I own a house, and when I need my house to get fixed up, guess what? I hired local too. I just put in a new roof. That was really expensive, but guess what? I hired local. And when I need a new paint job, I also hire local. Here's the thing. When you have a vacation rental, you're keeping that house away from somebody who wants to live here. A doctor that wants to move in and help people here in Coos Bay. You're keeping that house away from a teacher that wants to come teach here. You're keeping that house away from a plumber that wants to work here in Coos Bay, live here. That's what you're doing when you have a vacation place. If you want to bring your whole family to a vacation place, awesome. You can go camping. You know, there's motels that are cheaper. There's also places, like there might be maybe an Airbnb that's in a commercial zone that you could rent. Keyword here, commercial zone, not residential home, not residential zone, but commercial zone, which is really close to downtown.
Can you address the commission, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you address the commissioners? Yep.
I was just
That's okay.
responding to her.
That's okay.
Anyway, so I can't concentrate on looking at you because
Okay.
that will remind me what else you said. And the other thing too is, as far as how people behave, if they're in a residential area, they can bring in a whole bunch of different people. Like, hey, you can have a party, and you can invite high school kids, and you can have a drinking party, and nobody will know anything. And this happens all the time. So that's why we don't like those things. Okay.
Thank you.
Could we, sir, just a second. Sir, could you give us your name for the record? Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Tony Donato, and I represent Terramar West, which is Prefontaine and Kentucky and Denise and Lisa, Tricia, I'm missing one. Dana, and then also, and Fulton.
I just want to say real quick, as a person who does rent through VRBO and Airbnb when I travel, there's a rigorous review process. The renters are reviewed, the people who rent are reviewed, and these parties he's talking about, we're inviting a bunch of kids, I mean, that just doesn't happen because it's very rare. It's very rare. because you won't be able to stay anywhere else if you do that kind of thing.
Okay. Well,
Anyway.
Thank you.
I guess I would like to make one comment here, and that is, there are 11 vacation rentals in Coos Bay. And
License.
but I mean, I think we need to make a distinction between what we're trying to, all of the rules and all the things that we're doing here all have to do with legal licensed establishments, not people that just decide they want to rent their house to whoever. That's not, well, I don't know if legal's the right term, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people that are going through and have rules for having a legal vacation rental. Vacation rentals are used widely throughout the world, and people that travel widely many times want to use them. I have a client from England who has asked me if I could find him a vacation rental when they come to look at the subdivision that they're developing in Reedsport. So I guess what I'm saying is that I recognize the inconvenience and the hassle, and I would be irritated if my neighbor were to rent out their house randomly and have a bunch of wild parties going on, particularly if they didn't invite me. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is what we're trying to do is set up proper rules, and if those rules are enforced and those compliances are met, I think that's where we have to look at how much of a problem this is or isn't. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Crystal Shoji, and I live at 1345 Myrtle Avenue. And I just did some research, and I'm a professional planner, so I could use it for a lot of things. And what I didn't research was your existing rules that you had on the website. So I may be suggesting things that you already have, but if so, good for you. That means I agree. Short-term rentals are often confused with ADUs, and I would just like to say that a ADU is a structure, and a short-term rental is a use. A short-term rental could be in a structure, but they shouldn't be confused as the same thing. So I suggest that we have some standards, which we already have some, but I'm just going to run through them, and if they're already there, that's great. STR would be the short-term rental, should pay fees and have licensing similar to that of hotels, motels, and bed and breakfasts. The vision for the STR should be provided within the city's comprehensive plan through text amendments to what you already have there that tell why you want these and what you want for STRs. Land use permitting for the STRs should specify the following. The STR will be organized through a land use permit that specifies the number of bedrooms and the number of guests that can be accommodated in any one dwelling or ADU. The next one, structural, fire, and safety codes are relevant, just as they are within small businesses. And annual inspections and inspections based upon complaints or concerns should be ongoing. Owner liability insurance should be required to protect the city, the hosts, and the neighboring properties. The residence or ADU should be on owner-occupied property. So that confused me when you were suggesting that they wouldn't be owner-occupied because, I'm not suggesting the owners would be in the same part of the house, but I don't see why you wouldn't want to have the owners there greeting people. And they wouldn't even have to be in the same thing if you were using one for an ADU. Distancing requirements should be set according to the neighborhood, such as how many do you want in one block? or how many within 300 feet or something like that, so that you're not getting a proliferation all in one area. Our neighborhood now, I believe, has 2 within 1 block, and I have a rental there, and I'm receiving notices from Portland. I forget the name of the company, but they're suggesting how wonderful it is to have ADU, or the vacation rentals, and that I ought to switch over and how much more money I could make. Now, I don't necessarily believe that, but it's quite a come-on letter, and I think it's an unfortunate thing because we so desperately need housing. And if I really could make more in a ADU, I mean STR, then with my rental, why wouldn't I want to change over? So I do think that some of these things are important. And then I've heard some talk that maybe the Prefontaine neighborhood would be exempted from vacation rentals and everybody else would take them instead. And I don't think that's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be deciding the zoning ordinance on a complaint-based, how many people complained, well, then they can get out of it, because we don't know what they're going to do in other neighborhoods. So we just need to set up the rules and be fair and decide which parts of town should have those. And if other people are zoned the same as me and they're exempted from the rules for the vacation rentals, that doesn't make sense to me. Thank you for the opportunity. You look like you're going to ask a question, Jim.
Oh, you know me. But I was just going to say that according to this list, there are no vacation rentals in Prefontaine area. Unless I don't recognize the street. Well, Kentucky, I guess, I'm sorry. So there's one.
I don't live on
Must be a terrible
Prefontaine.
place, you know, if it's, but I'm just saying, I guess I'm just I'm reinforcing this notion that what we're trying to do is manage something, not, you know, that if people aren't following the rules, of course, that we need to do something about that. And we need to aggressively do it and follow up if there's, you know, if the people next door have rented if they do have an official legal property, they are under a lot of restrictions, and you know, they have references that they have to get to rent them, and I mean, it's a rigmarole that people have that operate these things. It's not that simple, and so I think that somehow we need to grasp that in this process of discussion.
Yeah, I'm not against the whole idea. I do think management, as you said, is the issue, and volume, maybe.
I don't know, I've seen in other cities as well, where it's not necessarily excluding certain neighborhoods from it because of complaint-based thing, but more allowing it in certain areas rather than specifically saying this neighborhood or these streets, they're not allowed on just because it's that neighborhood. It's more of defining the zones where they are allowed close to. So
I was hearing that other people that are in the same zone as me were maybe going to be not having them now.
Right,
We
but
were gonna take more.
But if you're to go on, say, Beach Loop and Bandon, you know, they could be in the same zoning as you further inland, but you're not allowed to have your vacation rental further inland, but you are allowed on Beach Loop because that's kind of the tourist, that's where people want their VRBOs. So it's not necessarily, I don't think it'd be something that you're specifically exempting certain streets or areas from this. It's more defining where it would be.
I should go up there again. The council said that they might exclude Prefontaine area, and that the rest of us probably then would end up taking more, and I object to that.
Why did the council say that? Why did the council say that?
I don't know why they said that, but I wanted to make it clear that I didn't think that was in the
Yeah.
plan.
No, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
And council has not made a decision.
Pardon me?
I can address.
Good.
That's not the,
Let's go to
You
the,
have to go to the...
my name is Gary Colvin. I live at 971 Inlet Loop. I'm also a member of the Board of Directors for Pacific Crest Subdivision. And we definitely were one of those groups of individuals who were very vocal about the short-term rental that was, the application that was made at 850 Prefontaine this summer. And we had some very strong objections to it based on other short-term rentals that we've had in the similar area, both on Prefontaine and Kentucky, that have been very, very problematic for us. So a couple of things, and I'll address this real quick back. What was just stated about what the council's position was about possibly excluding Prefontaine, I think it was more of a question of how to handle it in the interim period of time, right? It wasn't that we were going to do this. It was what should we do until the process has completed, right, as an interim basis. And that was pretty much discounted because I agree, it's not just a Prefontaine problem. It's not a Radar Hill problem. It is a citywide problem. And short-term rentals are really incompatible in single-family neighborhoods, and I don't care what the affluence level is. You don't want one of these next door to you. You don't want them across the street from you. You have a lot of these that are, for example, 850 Prefontaine could handle, if you look at the actual square footage, 14 people, 14 short-term renters, okay? Just imagine the amount of volume, the car traffic, the noise. These are people who come into town. They don't go down to the restaurants, okay? They don't go down to the bars. They get these short-term vacation rentals for a reason. And that is the fact that because they can bring their food with them. So you're not getting the type of traffic that you would get typical for hotels and motels. Hotels, motels are easy to audit. You know how many people are staying at those hotels. We want our hotels to be full. We want to have that traffic. We want the tax base. We want those people to go out, right, the hotel patrons to go out and use our restaurants. We want them to visit our bars. We want them to go downtown and walk and spend their money in the stores. Short-term vacation rentals are the exact opposite. Even more important is the fact that they take out of Coos Bay right now our housing stock, which is at a bare minimum. And I can say this absolutely authoritatively. I am a high-tech professional, and it was really tough for us to find a house that was to our standards, for lack of a better term. And I don't want to use that as sticking my nose up to anything like that, but obviously we want to attract professionals into Coos Bay, right? We want to get new teachers in here. I believe that the president, our president spoke last time, Chad Putton, about the difficulty that the school district is having in which to retain teachers, to bring teachers into Coos Bay because there's lack of affordable housing. Every single solitary house that you put out there, every single short-term rental that goes from a residential to a business, you're taking that from the availability of the stock to provide those type of homes to people. Airbnbs, I strongly disagree with you about the fact that they do really extensive background checks and things like that. There's been all sorts of litigations against it, and Airbnb is not the only one who's doing this. There's over a half a dozen different companies that are advertising vacation rentals right now in Coos Bay, dozens and dozens of them. So if we have 11, I'm telling you that there is probably, I would probably guess somewhere between 5 to at least 5 dozen, more like probably over 100 vacation rentals. There's people who have trailers set up in their backyards that are using them as vacation rentals. All of this is lost revenue. We're not taxing it. We're not enforcing it. It's legal if you have 11, but if you have 100 that are operating, then you have 90 that aren't being taxed. And the only thing you have to do is go into Airbnb, go into Vacasa, create a bogus email account, and then start to do queries and say, okay, I'm looking for, this particular timeline, and you'll see all of these properties pop up. They even have maps now. So you can take a look to see where these are.
Let me ask you a question, sir.
Sure.
All right, and I understand, and I guess I'm kind of repeating myself here, but we keep, talking about sort of the outlaw vacation rental is what I think is causing the real problem. Let me ask, my question is, if we did in fact only had 11 actual active vacation rentals in the city of Coos Bay, do you think that that would be too much?
I think it depends on where they are located. I absolutely agree with Mr. Stevens, his suggestion. We believe that they should be located down in the business district or the business area, traditional. That's where those type of facilities should be. You don't want them, I guarantee you, I'm sure that you made a comment about the fact that you probably wouldn't like them partying next door to you, especially if they didn't invite you. I understand the sarcasm, but same thing, I've raised kids and I have 4 boys, and I can tell you the last thing I'd want would be one of these next door to me, because you have a constant churn of people. You don't know who's supposed to be there, who isn't. What happens when stuff starts to disappear from your front yard or your backyard, you have no idea. As far as the police is concerned, when you call the police, you're not calling in and say, hey, there's a vacation rental next to me that's noise. I'm calling in a noise complaint. I'm calling in or whatever, type of complaint. So from a statistical standpoint, I can understand where the chief of police says that I can't authoritatively tell you how many of these come from vacation rentals, because that's not something they track, right? They're tracking just the calls themselves. Make sense?
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean,
but I also understand the issue about trying to enforce it.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing, and I will just say this once more and then stop it, is that one of the things that I think we need to understand, and I've stayed in vacation rentals in Europe, and part of the mystique, if you will, is that it kind of allows you to be a part of that community for a little while. And it's, as a thoughtful guest and visitor and tourist, sometimes that's something that you would desire, is to be feeling like you live there for a little while. You don't get that feeling in a motel or a hotel. And in small villages and that sort of thing, there are no hotels or motels, so you're never going to have that experience. I think that's one of the reasons they exist. But anyway, enough of that. So.
No, I mean, it's a valid comment, okay? But again, you've got to kind of weigh the pluses and minuses, and the problem is that there's no control over it. As far as Airbnb is concerned, as far as the Casa is concerned, a vast majority of those properties, there is nobody on site. They have a manager, quote unquote, meet you to give you the keys, and then they disappear. They have a 24-hour number that you call if your air conditioning stops or your heater stops. That's it. There is no on-premise management of those properties. And they don't know if there's 6 people
Right now,
who showed up or if there's 6,000.
Can I say something really quick? We do require that there's a local contact for all Airbnbs in Coos Bay.
That's right. They use a property management plan. I understand it, but they're not on premises.
Right, but I'm just saying we do require a local contact. So it's not completely computer-based, it's not.
No,
I think,
understand.
I agree with what
believe
Jim's saying, is we're kind of talking about the problematic ones only. And in my experience, I've filed a couple noise complaints for my tenants because the homeowners next door were being too loud and partying and doing crazy things. So I think it happens with homeowners, with long-term tenants. I think we should focus on solutions for maybe policing noise complaints, maybe creating a fine, maybe we just need to think open-minded here about the solutions rather than just focusing on the complaints. We'd love to hear ideas.
But the house next door that has noise, I understand that very
I filed
well.
3.
You know who lives there, right? You do know who lives there.
I pulled it up on county records.
Huh?
I pulled it up on county records to find out who lived there, but I had to file 3.
You don't know who your next door neighbor is?
Not to my tenant. My tenant was the one complaining.
Oh, your tenant, okay.
Yeah, I own 5 rentals, but my point is I've filed 3 noise complaints and nothing was done about it. So I think we need to focus on that procedure a little bit too.
Again, you have people who are there, you said that your next door neighbors, you know who they are, you
They're
can pull them
homeowners.
up. Vacation rentals, you don't know who they are. And there's no way to police the number of people who are there. It's obviously when they're charging $138 to $178 per person for a lot of these rentals per night, there is always the incentive of a fact to underreport the number of people who are there. So you having your big crowd come in and you're actually renting, you say, oh, there's only going to be 4 of us, and 10 of you show up.
Well,
right?
the owners don't want that to happen.
No, the owners don't, but that
Yeah,
happens all the time.
Exactly, so that's what I'm saying. The owners, that's not their goal either. Their goal is to have nice, peaceful stay for their tenants.
I would love a strong ordinance. I would love a strong ordinance, and if it's not licensed, $1,000 a day, take away the profit incentive. Some of these places, if you go online, charge $600 to $900 a night.
Right.
$100 a day fine is just the cost of doing business for these owners.
Well, I appreciate your comment.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Wait, let's end this public, I think it was 3-minute total?
Yes, I think
Okay.
my 3 minutes
Let's
is
wrap.
way
Let's
up.
just wrap it up.
I'll
And
stand up.
okay, thank you so much.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Christine Moffett. I live at 700 Denise Place. I would like to hopefully change the tone of this conversation that we're having with you. I would appreciate that we don't have arguments with the people that are supposed to be listening to us. I'm quite offended that this is interactive rather than you're listening to us, and I hope that you will consider that. This is at least the second time that I've spoken on this issue, certainly not to you folks, but I have submitted 3 letters, which I hope you read because there's a lot of material in that. I'm a citizen here, and I don't want to reiterate what I wrote in my letters because I'm counting that you have read that. But the points that I would like to make are that full-time residential communities offer an opportunity of engagement, an opportunity of full-time contributions to a city, to the community, to all the organizations. Look at the people that are here today talking to you. I mean, we're dedicated citizens of Coos Bay. We want this place to be a friendly and welcoming environment for all of us. We are concerned, I am concerned about safety. I am concerned about housing issues. I have seen an escalation of price of housing in our community in the last 2 years that's become almost a bidding war because people are looking for full-time housing here. I believe that these short-term residential situations for vacation are a commercial activity that does not belong in a residential neighborhood. It clearly does belong in a commercial neighborhood, in an area surrounding those neighborhoods, perhaps. But there is a difference, as was pointed out, in terms of the contributions to this community that are made by short-term vacationers and tourists. Those are important parts of our economy, and we have already considered that as a zoning ordinance within the county, within the city. I implore you to consider what this means to people that value their neighbors, knowing their neighbors, and understanding the value of true contributions to be part of a community. And I please ask you to read all of the letters that we have submitted, including the material that I provided for you in some detail. Thank you.
Hi.
So, I'm kind of nervous. My name's Terry Fisher, and I drove down from Portland. I was born and raised here, but jobs took me away, and I live in Portland. But I do have 3 houses here. 2 are a month-to-month rental, 1 is a short-term rental. And yes, I'm one of those 11 people. I'm licensed, and I opened my rental in July of this year. Oh, sorry, I'm pretty nervous. It has been the best thing I've ever done. Now that house, it has a shared driveway. It's just a small house in the Empire District. And it has a shared driveway with the next door neighbor. And a couple weeks ago, we were down working on things for the house, and I went over to my neighbor and I said, Karen, have you had any problems? And she said, not one. Not one problem. You cannot have a closer neighbor than a shared driveway. And in fact, she uses part of my driveway anyway because she has this huge travel trailer that she parks on her driveway, which goes over into my driveway. But we work it out. So anyway, she told me how kind and respectful the guests have been. And she's told me how they pet her cat and seem to enjoy the affection of her kitty cat. As far as parties well, first of all, as far as doctors or people like that wanting to rent my house, I really doubt it. It's about 700 square feet. It's a small 2-bedroom. I don't think a doctor is going to want to rent my house. As far as what it does to the neighborhood, I have to tell you, I've spent thousands of dollars buying furniture and fixing it up, and it has never looked as good as it looks now. And it was a month-to-month for years. For years, it was a month-to-month. Also, to address parties, houses are an investment. We do not want to bring people in to party in our houses. That will only destroy them. We've spent lots of money making them nice, making a good place for someone to come. And we don't want people to destroy them. I do have a video doorbell on both my doors so I can see who's coming and going. There's no video inside the house, of course. But I try to keep track of things that way. I don't see short-term rentals as a problem, like some people have said. Like I said, it's been the best thing that's ever happened to us. I used to rent that house for $645 a month. Let me tell you, I've done much better than that since July. And as far as owner-occupied and partial house, well, in 700 square feet, that wouldn't really be possible. And I do have a contact close to the house, but no, we're not going to have someone living on premises. That wouldn't be possible. I did submit a letter. I don't know if it got put in the packet, actually. Did it? Okay. Because then I thought, oh my gosh, I think I emailed it to myself. I don't know. Sometimes I do things like that. But anyway, and then as far as they don't contribute to the economy, here's my guest book. And if anybody would like to look at it later on, I just have thank you, thank you, thank you. Someone really loved the O restaurant. They talked about Chuck's Seafood. Clamming and crabbing. What's the name of that place? It's a new place down on Front Street. I'd have to look through here, but anyway, they went to the Provisioners or something on Front Street. Yeah, so they are going to our restaurants, they are going to our gift shops, and they are spending money in the community.
Hi, my name is Annie Comfort, and I live just outside of Coos Bay at 63314 Idaho Drive, Coos Bay, and we rent a home also in the Empire District. When my husband and I were married, we both had homes, and we couldn't live in both of them. So we had a decision to make about what to do with his home at the time. And I love staying in vacation rentals, and I agree with whoever said I would skip a town that didn't have them, because that's where I go to look to stay. It's just the atmosphere that I prefer. We own and operate Annie's Cottage Vacation Rental. The vacation rental is currently listed with VRBO and HomeAway, and the subtitle is A Quiet Getaway with a Peaceful Waterfall. And I do that along with all the other language I put into the ad to communicate that we are expecting peace and quiet. It's a PR thing, it's a communication thing, it's a build a relationship through the process of establishing the rental. It's been a pleasant retreat for travelers from all over the world, mostly across the United States, but we've had people from out of country as well since the spring of 2008. We care for the cottage ourselves. We do most of that work, and that's because that's what we have to do. We're not getting rich on having one vacation rental. We absolutely love our guests and our neighbors. It's been a very positive experience and positive reviews. They have a great expectation of what it's going to be like on the coast. We always are asked, where can they go eat? Where can they go to eat? What are the activities they can do in the community? Because that's why they come. And it is true, they bring food, but usually for a meal, maybe. But honestly, most people seem to like to go out. I see a lot more evidence that they've been going out rather than eating at the cottage. Many years ago, we have had a little bit of problems with neighbors. We had one brief period, we had the complaint, it's a person that's no longer living near the cottage, but the neighbor was revving their engine too loud around 6 a.m. and waking the guests. We were unable to convince them that being more considerate would be good, but fortunately they moved. Another neighbor was running an RC car in the street right by the cottage. Our guests were very sweet about it and just mentioned it. And so I talked with the neighbor and just respectfully said that it would just be awesome if they would consider maybe running the car. And I didn't specifically say it was because of guests, because if I were living there, anybody living there, it was a very loud noise, and you could not just enjoy your living room. So they were considerate and did that and went to another location. Our guests usually are couples or small families. We only have room for up to 4, and in fact, we've carefully not added a bunch of other places to sleep, and we are specific that we are not wanting large parties. It's hard on the cottage. Of course, they can have family come visit if they're here. They do come to see their families. Often they come for those reasons. Guests have frequently been couples who have come to the coast for a weekend or up to a couple months to escape the summer heat from elsewhere, or traveling professionals who come for short-term employment and have on occasion liked the area so much they've hired on permanently and stayed in the area. We have housed physicians, we have housed who were working in the area, RNs that were traveling into the area, therapists, and sometimes their dog or cat. And we've had politicians, we've had CEOs, we've had project managers for large-scale operations that were going on in the area. They treat Empire as a little haven. It's amazing to them, and I treasure their perspective. They tell the world that this is a great place. They put it in their reviews, and they love us. We don't provide the service because we're compelled by rules and laws. When I started in 2008, my husband and I called the city and asked, what are regulations? What do we need to do? Unfortunately, I spoke with someone who told me there wasn't any at the time. Then I came to a city council meeting for another topic and shared some information, and I think out of that, somebody discovered that I had a vacation rental. And so I got a call, or I got a letter that was as if I was operating an illegal property, and I called them and I said, I asked because we want to do this right. So we do license at this point as soon as we learn that there's a process. We license it, we get our inspections. We do it because we love doing it, we love people, and we love serving them. It's a lot of work, but it's incredibly rewarding. It's our goal to have a peaceful, clean place to stay for people. We have surveillance on the outside of the property also so that we can keep an eye on what's coming and going. And we also drive by the property. We don't specifically meet them when they come, but we've communicated with them a lot. And we don't charge a deposit, a cleaning deposit, because we think they're worse on the property when you do that. For us, we tell them in the information that we are asking them to respect the property and care for it. And we have had so few issues or concerns that we just have the best guests in the world. While the cottage does not provide for us a living wage, it does pay for itself, but being able to rent short-term allows us to enter the home frequently so that we can afford to keep it up without very major expenses between long-term renters. We ask our guests to care for the cottage, respect the neighbors during their stay. They do. We would very much like to continue providing this service and see others have the opportunity to do it as well. I believe that our cottage may technically be in a commercially zoned area. I think it is. Well, it's on, it's Nichols and Marple. It's one block off of, yeah.
I've already given.
Yeah. So, but the whole area is homes, and there's an apartment complex across the street. And then I had a coworker who lived across the street from the cottage, and I'd ask her, how's it going? Are people being respectful? She said, I can never even tell if people are there or not. It's just a normal feeling neighborhood. Our guests always, I tell them, if people compliment you on the water feature or on the yard, just tell them thank you, like you're the best gardener, like you just love taking care of your yard. Because we don't want it to feel like a commercial property. I said, just treat it like your place, and they do. They just accept the compliments and say thanks when people are walking their dogs or whatever. So it can go very well. I think it has to do with I think it's important that they be, I would hate to see us extremely regulated. I hear many complaints of people trying to do homes in Bandon because of what they feel are a lot of regulations, and it's just hard. I'm not sure I could keep up with that. I have a day job, and I'm a super, super busy person, and I just want to take care of people in the home that we rent. And this is what's working for us. I appreciate your time.
Hi, my name is Trina Mattoon. My address is 556 North Bayshore Drive in Coos Bay. And I am here on behalf of the Coos County Board of Realtors. And we have, and I sit on the Board of Directors, we have turned in our statement in regards to our stance against the short-term rentals and vacation rentals. I believe we can all agree as homeowners that we have the right to use and enjoy their property as they see fit within the local the bounds of the laws, ordinances and title restrictions. Applied to this situation, that means homeowners should be able to freely use their property as a short-term vacation rental, either in whole or in part, while other homeowners' peaceful enjoyment of their property is honored as well, despite some of the current assertions. The majority of short-term and vacation rentals coexist well in residential neighborhoods. Instances of upset and disruption are the exception. The Airbnb platform used by many owners has a built-in system of self-regulation based on both host and guest reviews. The exception of mutually reviewed experience encouraged the host to keep their properties clean and in good repair. and the guests must be respectful to the rental and surrounding properties. We contend it is essential for the short-term and vacation rentals to operate in a wide range of residential areas, and therefore encourage the city to address the concern of the noise of disruption on a case-by-case basis, rather than creating overreaching restrictions that infringe on property rights. We have a couple of key points, and I do want to say, as a principal broker owner and been in this industry for going on 17 years, I have never sold a long-term rental to somebody that has turned it into a vacation rental. They usually, their intent is to keep it a long-term rental. Secondly, the big thing too, especially now, is there are a lot of medical staff that are coming to this area. From somebody at Bay Area Hospital, they have 47 traveling nurses that are coming here. They're offering them a great pay. These nurses need temporary housing while they are working here. And again, these short-term rentals, these vacation rentals offer them that opportunity. I have several clients now that are actually relocated here for job purposes, trying to find a home. We know how the market is. And so they are utilizing these short-term rentals and vacation rentals as a place until they can get into a long-term permanent situation. And so I do feel that the demand and the need for these on that level is very important. There's many other aspects that bring these decisions that we have, that we feel are strong. Most short-term vacation rentals coexist well with many residential neighborhoods. Disruptions are disproportionately being represented in the current discussion. Sorry, my mask is making me have a hard time to breathe. Homeowners can also violate local peace and nuisance ordinances. Any instances of disruption by a short-term or vacation rental guest should be handled the same as any other noise or nuisance complaints. Airbnb has a mutual review system that self-regulates guest behavior. And the other topics that we feel are very important is that it does bring investors to the area, people that come here. I get that all the time. They come here on vacation. They stop at my real estate office. It's beautiful here. They're staying at a local vacation rental. They want to move to the area. They do spend money in the community. Yes, they do get vacation rentals because of the many different facets of having the home feel in a residential neighborhood. I went to a vacation rental and I become best friends with the neighbors. We still text and talk to each other often. And I know this isn't always the case. But again, I think that people are just making these people that are in here in the vacation home owners as out to bad people, that they're wanting to bring people in, they're taking away the long-term housing. There is a need for both. There is a need for both long-term housing here and the short-term to get these people into the long-term housing. And not having the availability is very concerning. And I also feel, again, as my stance, I don't have people just coming, wanting to kick tenants out to make it a vacation rental. You could get a tenant next door to you that's on a year lease or longer, that's a nuisance. So you're stuck with that tenant as your neighbor for a year plus, opposed to maybe somebody that's being a little loud and rowdy for the weekend. So I just want to say on behalf of the Coos County Board of Realtors, we just feel that the short-term vacation rentals is very important for this area, this community, and for the people that are coming here to work, to live, and for longevity. Thank you.
Jim Barron's, 1190 Fulton, Coos Bay. Going to address a couple things here real quick. We have two types of vacation rentals that are getting lumped together. The lady from the Board of Realtors mentioned workers and using furnished housing. We have workers using furnished housing in our neighborhood. It is rented month to month. One of them rents for $5,000 a month. The other one rents for $1,700 a month. They are not a problem at all. Don't even know they're there. They're just like regular neighbors. 30-day and under is a train wreck. You guys, most of you have read this. Most of you. This is thoughts from my neighbors that can't be here. Health, They're taking care of family members. This is real stuff. And if you think this is a softball, you ought to wait and see what I tee up, because this is junk. You guys are hammering us. We shouldn't have to fight over this. Move it to mixed and commercial. And I know Mr. Berg's sharp. I know your boss is sharp. Hawthorne. You guys can work out deals and get those where they need to be for the people that are running. You can grandfather everything you got out there, all right? Leave them where they're at until they sell. We need neighborhoods. I'm not going to screw around with it. My patience is shot. Okay? Shot. When you keep a 70-plus-year-old lady awake at night at 2 in the morning and won't enforce your own damn rules, then you're going to catch hell. And this is what you're going to get.
I just want to remind you that we just make recommendation to City Council.
Okay? You need to completely take what you've got on the books and start over. You need to look at your comprehensive plan. You need to look at your zoning. You need to integrate this to all the projects you're going on in your city. I've made it pretty clear. Okay? This requires some work. And I know some of you have read the material because your questions show that you've read the material. Okay? You're going to have to think about this. You're going to dictate how this community looks going forward. Now, if you want it to be all tourists, be my guest. Okay? I'm going to resist that. I don't think it's right. I think you miss opportunities by not putting them in mixed use and commercial use areas. I have no complaint with anybody that's running an outstanding operation here. Our experiences have been terrible. And the city has made little or no effort to shut them down. And I can't be any more clearer than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Melinda Abrish. I bought a vacation rental. Actually, I bought a house that was in foreclosure and was on the auction about 3 years ago, three and a half years ago. The house was in disarray. It had been vacant for, we're figuring over 5 years. There had been squatters in the house. There was broken windows from criminals jumping in through them. There were bullet holes on the floor. There were knife holes in the walls. All the carpet was torn out. There were things that I shouldn't share that were inside the house and outside the house. We took and filled up a 30-yard dumpster and a 50-yard dumpster to clean the property. We went in, put new flooring in, new cabinets, painted, filled holes in the walls, put all new light fixtures in, put all the necessary safety equipment in, and put a patio off the back that has a gas fire pit and has a barbecue, and we made it bling. Rockscape looks lovely. We put over $40,000 in it to fix it up. It was the worst house on the block. As we are fixing it up, the neighbors would come by and go, "It's looking great, thank you," because it was horrible. Looks great. Got it rented out, got a call from somebody that says, you gotta register this. We did it immediately. We are a legal Airbnb or vacation rental. We have it listed on Airbnb and VRBO. Both of those sites have a review area where you can review your renters. So if anybody messes up and you put a bad review, they're not going to be able to rent any longer, okay? So my guess, I had a couple of them in the very beginning, one that really liked to fish a lot, and left it all over my house. But as far as disturbing the neighbors, nothing. My renters come in to go fishing. By the way, I'm not on that map. I'm right over the bridge on the east side. We're right by the boat ramp there. So they come in to go fishing, golfing, weddings on the beach. We've had funerals. We've had families just getting away. By the way, it's very affordable for a family with kids to go on a vacation where they can't afford 3 hotel rooms. They can afford my house. It's a great family house. It's 1,800 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I have 7 that can stay in there, 2 in the outside bedrooms, king bed, queen bed, and I have a hide-a-bed with a twin bed for the kids to stay in. They love it there. They're able to stay and come to the coast and stay affordably. A hotel room, how much would that cost for 3 hotel rooms for a night at each room? I'm charging that for the whole house. They can come and stay. I've had business owners come and stay that were working in the area. I've had the hospital rent it for people to stay for an internship at the hospital so they can possibly get new nurses into the hospital. I know I have a different situation than most. I bought the property because I want to retire here. I've been coming to Winchester Bay fishing for 20 years now. And I thought, let's try. We come down here every once in a while. I haven't fished this bay here. I want to try it. So we bought a property right by the boat ramp, fixed it up. We've been able to stay there, and we spend money here. All of my guests spend money here because the majority of them are going somewhere. The dunes people, they come and stay all the time. I have enough room for them to put a trailer out front, so it's great for them. So they love it. I have people coming here to do what Coos Bay has to offer. And it's not just staying in the room. It's going out and playing, going hiking. They go out to Charleston, they go crabbing. I have crab equipment in my garage. I have clamming equipment in my garage so that they can use that and go out and play. I have cameras. I have one on my front, I have one out my back door, and I have one in the garage. They can like it or not like it. I like to see what's coming in and out of my house at each point. I see everything that's going on. I don't watch them all the time. But if I get a note from my housekeeper that says there's a problem at the house, I can look back and see what's going on. We have no parties. It says no parties on my rental. I haven't had ever anybody break that rule. I have a pool table in the house. It's a party place. They can't have any parties. Never had it happen. They love the pool table. I have a housekeeper, I have a landscaper, and I have garbage service. I pay extra for the garbage service to come onto my property, pull the can out to the road, and dump it. It's an extra $100 every 2 months. But it gets done. The neighborhood, they love it. I've talked to the neighbors. My husband goes around and talks to the neighbors. They appreciate how quiet it is. The problem I'm having right now, and it's a big problem, is my next door neighbor who moved in after I got the house fixed up, who has garbage all over the house, or all around the house. They blacked out the windows. And they have, I've counted up to 6 dogs that bark at me and my customers every time we come in and out of the house. And if we're outside washing our boat or doing anything, it's a pain. They also parked an RV right out in front of their house,
And they have 2 to 3 families living in this house now, and their cars parked over onto our property. On the other side, we have a nice green space, but past that, they put a new manufactured home in there. We were like, great, new manufactured home, it's nice and clean, beautiful. They have 2 broken down RVs, paint all over them. They have a car out front, they've been rattle can spray painting it. It looks like a junkyard, and that just happened in the last month. So the people in my neighborhood that we talk to are complaining about those guys, not us. Our place is quiet, our place is friendly. We haven't had any issues with any of the neighbors. Now, I can understand that there's probably some Airbnbs out there that aren't licensed, that are causing problems. They're just the same as the neighbors I have right now. They're people that are not following the rules. I don't care whether it's an Airbnb, I don't care if it's a personal residence. They're not following the rules. So I'm just gonna say, because I live in the Willamette Valley, a few people have brought up lack of housing. It's everywhere. It is not in Coos Bay alone. It is everywhere. I sell houses for a living. I am a realtor. Hello. But I'm not in Coos Bay. I'm not a Coos Bay realtor. I've been a realtor for 18 years. This is the worst lack of housing that the U.S. has ever seen. The reason for the lack of housing, I listen to the experts. They say it's because we have shut down the builders from being able to build for 10 years when we had the down economy. So they weren't building houses. Now we have a lack of housing. We have to open it up for builders to build more. We have to clean up the houses that are sitting out there that are falling apart. Let's put them back together, or let's bulldoze them and put a house there so that they're clean and nice and people. And affordable housing, I don't know what we're gonna do with that. It's the cost of housing has went up so much that I feel sorry for first-time homebuyers, people on fixed incomes, because you can't. You're gonna have to have help. Parents, family members, somebody's going to have to help you purchase a house right now, because you're gonna have to come up with money down. It's a problem everywhere. It's not just Coos Bay, it's everywhere. I guess that's it. I'm sorry. High horse. Yes, and by the way, I'm open to any questions. I'm not gonna limit to just me talking.
Hi, my name is Barbara Donovan. I live at 1320 Myrtle Avenue. We moved here in January because we had stayed in Airbnbs and loved the area so much. We purchased a home, and we have opened an Airbnb in it, and it is one of the 11 licensed. It's been a wonderful business. It's our plan for retirement. We just post on Airbnb, and we've had a great experience with that. I echo everybody else's comments about the rating system. We have had people that we've just, we have been unhappy how they've treated our hot tub and said, no, we wouldn't have them back. So you do have the option to rate people low. And, we're all aware of that system. We live close to the hospital, and so we have had clinicians and IT people come and stay. So we have also experienced having local people come to work in the area. I think there's been a lot said here tonight. I don't need to go on, but we do support the Airbnbs. The process was rigorous to go through to be licensed, but I think it's a good system. I could see the possibility of adding extra square footage for how far the neighbors are queried. That could be an option. But we're happy to be here in Coos Bay and enjoying our business. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicole Stagner, and I live at 64728 Wygant Road. The street I live on is on the water. On my street, we have a total of 26 houses. Of those 26 houses, we have 6 vacation rentals. They are a delight. It is wonderful to have people who come to our beautiful area and go, wow. It is so nice. I personally take pleasure when I watch the people who are, one of those vacation rentals is directly next to me. I get to watch these children run out onto the sand and enjoy what we get to live with every single day. My understanding about this situation that this is all about is because of Prefontaine. I have done a little research. I know that particular address, Prefontaine, wanted to be part of the Vacasa community. The neighborhood of Prefontaine raised such a stink, and they withdrew their application. The fact that a neighborhood should have that much influence and be able to make so much stink that we are all standing here bothers me. But I'm also about solutions. I believe that if that particular neighborhood is so vehement, and I sense their energy, they're very enthusiastic about their position, which I appreciate, they can create a homeowners association. They can say, we in this homeowners association will not tolerate any vacation rentals. That's an option for you. You are trying to get this council to create an ordinance that affects everyone, but you only want to control your environment. I think that that's a solution for you that doesn't affect everyone else. I also believe that the Planning Commission has a valuable tool. And that tool is you have the right to revoke licensing. That if a property continually has complaints issued against it, that you then can tell the property owner and say, look, there are continual complaints. However, my caveat on that is that there should be some kind of a checks and balance system. That because, and I say tangent here, apologize, but I had a neighbor who every time I used my fire pit would call the EPA. And she would call and complain, and she's burning this. Then the fire marshal would have to come out, make sure I wasn't burning illegal material in my fire pit. And finally, my dad, who's also got a letter that said, you know, it was reported you were having illegal burning, but the fire marshal said it was fine. My father turned around because this same neighbor, every time anybody in the neighborhood had a fire, would call this agency. So my father called the agency and said, so what kind of complaint can I make against a neighbor who's always complaining about any time anybody has a fire? What I'm trying to say with that is that when you have neighbors who are continually trying to complain about a vacation rental that they basically don't want to have in their neighborhood, those nuisance complaints need a form of being verified. Once it is established that a house is a continual problem, the Planning Commission has a tool at their disposal of saying that because of these nuisance complaints, we are going to give you a warning that you are possibly going to lose your licensing. That's a tool that you have at your disposal. However, I also think that that should go both ways. That if you have neighbors who are continually complaining about a property because of the fact they essentially don't want it in their neighborhood, that there should also be a tool or some sort of fine involved with nuisance complaining just because they essentially don't want it in their neighborhood. So, and in my final comment, I would say, one, I don't believe that we all of us who are impacted or affected or involved in the vacation rental industry should have new rules, new regulations, all of this because of the fact that one neighborhood is up in arms. But the other position that I say is that I'm wondering if Coos County's resistance to vacation rentals, because they are essentially against tourism, because they are more focused on what this community has always been, which is a blue-collar, industrial environment, and therefore are not as open to a tourism industry. Thank you very much.
Can I make one point here? Wygant is in the county, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so she is paying around $2,500 in permitting to set those up in the county. That's a figure that should be in some of your correspondence in your packet from one of the letters from a lady out of the area. About $2,500 in a trip to Coquille and a visit from Coos Health and Wellness. We're at $350 and change plus a business license, about $400. The city abandoned, Carolyn, correct me if I'm wrong, $2,500 or $1,500? Carolyn Johnson?
I don't know what they charge.
I think you put it in a staff study at around $1,500. They also have a zoning restriction. Okay, I'm sorry that I got a little torqued, some of my neighbors are a little torqued. We expect to be protected by zoning. Other Oregon communities do this. It's not anything new. Okay? Bigger tourist communities than us, Ashland, Hood River, Astoria, all protect residential housing by zoning. They hold up neighborhood integrity and livability. I have nothing against any of you folks that are doing free enterprise. Some of you are dynamite operators. The lady on Michigan, nobody writes about. I'm doing the legwork, guys. All right, I'm checking. The person on Nichols, that's commercial. All right, it needs to go in commercial and mixed-use areas to complement the millions of dollars you guys are spending, we are spending, to build the tourist industry. When you hit a phone on my hill, it doesn't send you downtown. It sends you to Charleston. The only thing you see is Tokyo Bistro.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Yeah, I personally take offense to the multiple statements that one neighborhood is complaining. At the last hearing, at the last meeting, which was in front of the city council, there was multiple people from other areas of the city who were complaining very, very loudly about having that problem. It's not a radar, it's not a radar kill issue. It's not a Pacific Crest issue. It's not a Kentucky issue. It is a citywide issue, and they made sure that they wanted to make that the council understood that it was citywide.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing
If you do want to keep talking, can you go to the podium, please?
The other point that I would like to make.
Gary Colvin. The other thing that I'd like to make a point on has to do with how we regulate those short-term rentals, right? So why should those be treated any different than what a motel or a hotel has to do as far as zoning or code ordinances, right? I'm unaware of any of them that have sprinkler systems in them. I'm unaware of them that they have fire doors on them. Does your house have sprinklers and fire doors? My bet is no. Okay, so why is it that we impose very stringent restrictions on motels, on hotels that are aimed at transient populations, short-term rentals, people coming to visit the town, right? Where if you happen to, especially if you don't register, if you don't license, we only have 11 that are licensed in Coos, and we know that the number is many times that. Why should they not be allowed, why should they escape the same type of overview or oversight by the city? There should not be any difference. If you are going to
Excuse me, remember, the purpose of this meeting is for us to receive public comment, not for you two to argue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Yes.
If you guys are going to make comments, you have to come up to the podium.
Just real quick, my name's Kay Martin, I live at 971 Everett Loop. I just want to explain why the Prefontaine, there's a backstory to it. The house... Oh, can you hear me? Okay, so the Prefontaine house was a little bit of a tricky thing because the house was not fit. Structurally, it was not safe for people to live in. There were a lot of issues with no permits being done. There was work inside the home. It was not permitted. They added an extra floor. They cut into the foundation. They did all kinds of things. And so that's the backstory of that house. I wanted to explain why we are so proactive, because there was another house on that street that had nothing but noise, trash, people running up and down all hours of the night. And parking, there was hardly any parking there. And when you have an STVR, I think you're supposed to have a certain number of parking spaces, and they only had like 2. And they advertised for like 15 people to come in, or 14. So that's why. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any additional comment?
My name is Emily Gardner. I live at 860 Prefontaine Drive. Okay, so I'm going to try and be as neutral as possible. That's what I do for a living. I'm a code writer, and so I act as neutral as possible to assess the code and figure out what actually needs to be done according to the policies of the city, right? So first off, any current STVRs need to be grandfathered in automatically. That is out of question. It's not even an issue. What's been done is done. As far as current ones that they're in the remodeling process, as somebody mentioned, I feel like maybe a rezoning should be done, taking into consideration what currently is being developed, and then go from there. Maybe it's a specific area. I really like that area somebody mentioned about being on top near downtown. That's a beautiful area. You're right near shops. You're right near local small businesses, all your restaurants. You can walk to the waterfront. That's beautiful. That's what this area needs. You want to boost your tourism. We want tourism. We want to boost in the economy. That's fantastic. I love seeing people come here and absolutely enjoy our city. But we need to be smarter about it. Why put housing in small, off the in a random neighborhood when you want to drive them towards your local businesses and to keep driving up that economy so you're putting that money back into the city? What we currently have, I understand that it's being used for professionals that have to come in here and don't have any housing. But did you listen to that? Professionals have to go to vacation rentals to find housing to work in our area. That's hard to swallow, I guess. It sounded a little weird to me. I didn't even hear you, Mr. Berg, say anything. I thought that was a little unusual. You're really right on the mark with some of the other ones. So that bothers me a little bit. But what really bothers me is the code. The code as it's written shouldn't really allow any vacation rentals. And so if we want to allow them, then we need to rewrite that. Or at the minimum, we need to relook at our definitions of things. If, as the code has said actually, so CBDC 17.130.070, that provides the approval criteria for a land use application. So number 1 says that it has to comply with the Coos Bay Comprehensive Plan. Number 2 is has to comply with the development code. And number 3 is no significant adverse effect on adjacent properties. So number 1, that comprehensive plan, there's all kinds of issues with our current availability of housing. CBCP's Chapter 7.5, Community Economic Development Objectives, establish a range of housing types consistent with state law: size, design, location, affordability. Policies 1.1, Goal 4, Objective 3, found in Chapter 9, they all state the same thing. I'm sorry, Mr. Berg, I'm repeating some of the stuff you guys are very well versed on. And then in discussions and findings found in the amendment to Chapter 9, across the state, there's a need for more diverse and affordable housing choices. Increased housing choices needed to address residents in the full range of life, including young families, retirees, and young adults. Now, if you want that to include vacation rentals, put that in there. That, to me, that reads as if you're looking for a permanent homeowner or you're looking for a renter. So currently, as it stands, just looking at point 1, these STVRs don't comply with that comprehensive plan. Now, again, I'm remaining neutral. If this is what you want to happen, then make it right. And I understand somebody else said something about housing issues are nationwide. That's true. We can't control what happens nationwide. We can control what happens here and now. I bought a house. I am a first-time homeowner. I work remotely for a private company. I want to see people come here who enjoy it. I found this little nook of heaven in Coos Bay, of all places, and I love it. And I want people to enjoy that. But we need to make that code comply with that, make it easier. And there needs to be clear criteria for that. Make it easier for the person who wants to put an STVR in. If she can't find the code, she can't know that she's complying with everything. And if we have issues, we need to make sure that they're taken care of. We've had issues on Prefontaine. Nothing happened. That's why we're here. We complained. We complained and we complained, and nothing happened. We don't want them to go in the first place because we can't get the city to do anything about it when we're struggling. No, that doesn't happen all the time. Maybe it's 1 in every 10 STVRs. But when it does happen, we want to know that the city's there to back us up and protect us. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, Amy, if I could reserve a time to comment after the public speakers, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
What time is it?
Hi, so I thought of something else that, as I said earlier, I'm Terry Fisher from Portland, but grew up here, lived here, have 3 houses here. One of my houses is a month-to-month rental in Eastside. And a couple weeks ago when I was here, I did a walkthrough. And one thing that I do is I pride myself on making my properties nice. And I was appalled when I went through this walkthrough. They have rabbits in the yard, which I need to deal with them on and get rid of the rabbits. They've got rabbits in the house. The house is a mess. Now, this is a month-to-month rental. They've been living there for a few years. My short-term rental, every time a guest leaves, I have a housekeeper go in that cleans that place spotless. That house is spotless. It gets cleaned every single time someone leaves. So I don't have to worry about that house turning out like my month-to-month rental.
Sorry, thank you. Any other comment?
I'm not against a moratorium. I just hope that if you set a limit, that the people who have already bought their houses in plans to have a vacation rental, that they can somehow be grandfathered in. Like I said, my sister's house, she bought it this summer before this came up with plans to do that. And she does plan to use the house as a retirement. Eventually, she plans to retire here. But I hope that if you do set a moratorium, that the date allows people that purchase their houses with these plans before the moratorium goes in can still do so. And the other thing is it's zoned residential, but it's right above the world. It's right next door to a dental office, used to be Dr. Terry's dental office. And then across the street, there's an architect. So it's zoned residential, but it's got commercial all around.
Thank you.
Melinda Abrush. I don't think I said where my address was. It's 209 Merchant Street when I was up here before. And I'm just going to address the difference between a vacation rental and a hotel. Hotel rules are based on large commercial properties that have several units that could be possibly several stories high, has to have a sprinkler system in it due to the fact that egress would be very difficult in those units if the place caught on fire. In my unit and in any residential home, there's to be egress easily available through any bedroom. And in mine, it has nice, great big windows, and most of my house has nice, great big windows. So there is that egress. I was required to have a a fire extinguisher. I have two. I have one in the house and I have one in the garage. So it very much complies with most of the hotel rules, other than the fact that it does not need sprinkler systems because you can jump out a window if it catches on fire.
Excuse me for 1 second, guys. So, all right, in this pile of junk, you guys didn't see anything about sprinklers. So my understanding, and I haven't verified it completely, is that the new building code requires people to put the permits that has to be of short-term vacation rental, have to put in fire sprinklers. Let's see where I'm looking for here. So we have a lodging business that breaks the rules on the number of people in a home so often that nationally the building code rules for safety had to be changed because they are such a pain, a hazard. So we've changed the national rules to put sprinklers in these things because they're that big a pain, because they don't follow the rules. I commend everyone that has. More power to you. Okay, one other thing here, which I can't impress upon you enough. All right? Other communities protect their workforce housing with zoning. They protect their workforce housing. And I bet you if I go through and compare their tourists and visitors against ours, they're cranking more business than we are. Okay, we're at 277 for the whole county. Okay, out of 2 billion. It's in the packet. Okay, and I'm willing to bet for sure that Ashland beats the bejeebers out of us. All right, and they protect workforce housing with zoning and rules. Thank you.
Any further comments? Okay, we're going to do a continuance for this meeting on the 25th, October 25th, Monday, 6 p.m. So we're going to leave this public hearing open. Commissioner comments or discussion?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
All right.
No.
Chair,
Staff?
yeah, I did have a few comments, just because.
Oh, yeah, we need a motion to
I'd
continue.
like to make
Sorry.
a motion that we continue this to Monday, October 25th, 2021, at 6 p.m.
Second.
Is that going to be virtual?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Terry.
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Chairman Aguirre.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Stevens.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
All right, Carolyn, did you have?
Yes, I did not focus on this too much when I spoke earlier, and I would like to call it to your attention and the attention of the audience if I could. The Planning Commission has looked at some draft regulations for vacation rentals. That was done in 2019. In fact, Mr. Behrens, you commented on those at that time. And those are in this supplemental report that identify a variety of options for criteria and regulations for consideration. So I just want to share that because this commission did spend quite a bit of time looking at these draft regulations. And I would encourage you to take a look at those along with the rest of this supplemental report because the intent at the time was to identify some criteria by which vacation rentals could be considered. So please take a look at that if you can. The other thing that the council has been very vocal about is their efforts towards economic development in our community. And they are very interested in seeing how our recreation facilities can bring in more tourism, et cetera. And to that end, we've applied for some grant money to look into updating our parks master plan. But along with that would be some potential comprehensive plan amendments related to recreating. And this certainly is not far out of the realm of recreating. That's why people come here. So I'd like to see if that grant is awarded, if we can fold in this housing question about vacation rentals. I think the council's been very clear about their interest in hearing from the community, which is why they wanted the Planning Commission to have this meeting and why we're having a second hearing on this. And we will keep you posted as more hearings are scheduled. I appreciate you all leaving your email addresses. We're going to be creating a listserv, so you'll get an email when we're having meetings. And I really thank you all for your time. This was, it's no small feat to take time out of your day to do this, especially when you're coming from far away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
By the very now he's a tycoon. So I still get his calendar.
Yeah.
And when we get, if we have a chance to sell.